Welcome to another episode of Getting to Know Greenville. I'm Beth Herbster, your local Greenville upstate realtor, and in this series, we interview people in our community, local businesses and restaurants. Today we're at a charity, so that people in the community can learn more about Greenville. So today I'm here with Kimberly Best, and she is the Senior Director of Development for the South Carolina chapter, and we're here in the Greenville office for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. This charity is very near and dear to my heart. My family and myself personally have been touched by Alzheimer's, and I'm sure other people in the community as well. So Kimberly, tell us what the Alzheimer's Association does on a national level and also on a local in our community.
So the Alzheimer's Association is obviously focusing on ending Alzheimer's and all other forms of dementia, and we do that by advancing global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and of course enhancing care and support right in our own communities.
Okay, cool. So why did you decide to work for this particular charity?
So I've been very committed to the nonprofit world since 2000. However, this particular charity is very near and dear to my heart as well, because I've lost not only my great-grandmother and my grandmother to Alzheimer's disease, but most recently my dad too.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. As I'm on the committee as well, I also lost my mom to Alzheimer's. So what other charities were you involved with before?
So I've worked with Safe Harbor, which is our local domestic violence program, also the Shriners Hospitals for Children, and the American Diabetes Association.
Oh, interesting.
All great organizations.
And I myself am a diabetic, so all the things.
Yeah.
What was it like when you first started working for the association?
So it's been over 15 years since I came to the association, and the very first thing that they taught me to say is that there's no way to prevent, cure, or even slow down Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
But this year, for the first time ever, I've had to learn a new phrase because we now have treatments.
Oh, great. Tell us a little bit more about them.
So we have our first FDA-approved treatment on the market now, and it is a therapy. It's not a drug that you can just go and take. It's actually an IV-administered treatment.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is opening the door for so many things that are in the pipeline and on the way, so many wonderful treatments that are being investigated that work, some in the same manner as this drug that's now on the market, but others that are taking a totally different approach to slowing the progression of Alzheimer's disease. So it's really an exciting time.
So other research is building on what's
Yes.
coming out. And now is that FDA approved, or where are we at with it?
So we only have one drug that's FDA approved right now, but we have several others that are coming in under that same classification. So the approval process will likely be easier for those medications, but we have totally different ones that are starting the process as well too, that work in entirely different ways. So I just really believe that in the near future, people are going to have treatment options at various points in the disease progression. So right now, the one medication we have is specific in the very early stages of the disease. So that is one of the reasons that we're really driving early detection right now, making sure that people aren't ignoring the signs, that they're going to their doctors, they're getting a diagnosis so they can also access treatment faster.
Okay, so what would be some of the early signs to maybe look for?
So at the Alzheimer's Association, we have a program called Know the 10 Signs. We talk about 10 different things that you can look for, but it's not like a checklist. It's not one of those things where, oh, if you have 3, then you need to see your doctor. We say if you see any of these signs, go ahead and talk to your doctor. And what I think is really interesting, and we probably don't have time to go into a lot of depth here, so I would encourage anybody watching to go to alz.org and look up the 10 signs, because what we talk about is not only what the 10 signs are, but what they aren't. So for example, one of the 10 signs is memory loss that disrupts daily life. Well, getting out of my house this morning, I searched for my keys twice. So you could say, you could say that disrupted my daily life. However, the difference for that is that's not something that's new. I was able to retrace my steps, and I had an aha moment when I realized where they were. So when you look at the 10 signs, if you go to our website, it not only talks you through what they are, but it talks you through what they aren't, because we don't want people being falsely concerned about things that they don't have to worry about right now.
Yeah, that's understandable. What do people maybe not know about the Alzheimer's Association?
Well, I think the name trips them up a lot of times, because We are actually the Alzheimer's Disease and Related Dementia Disorders Association.
That's a mouthful.
Which you thought Alzheimer's was hard enough, but so Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. 60% of all dementia cases are Alzheimer's disease, but there's another 40% of dementia cases out there that people don't realize we help with. The Alzheimer's Association will help people dealing with any form of dementia, so not just Alzheimer's dementia, but Parkinson's related dementia.
Oh, wow.
Alcohol-induced dementia, all kinds of dementia. We want to help people so that they get a good diagnosis, know what form of dementia they have, because there are some treatable forms of dementia. And then, of course, there are others that don't have a lot of treatments available now, but it's good to know what you have, if something can be done, and if there are things you can do to even slow the progression of the disease.
Well, and like you touched on earlier, the early detection is key.
Absolutely.
So what has surprised you the most while working here?
Well, there have been so many moments that I could go into, but I think one of them happened during COVID when we had to stop meeting in person. So we turned a lot of our programs and parties and things of that sort to online. And we had a woman who was in the early stages of the disease join us for one of those programs. And she said, "I'm so sorry for what you all are going through right now, but now you know what it's like when you get a dementia diagnosis.
Wow.
When all of a sudden you stop going out, you stop being able to go to work, your friends stop calling and stop visiting." And she talked about the isolation that we were all feeling during COVID was the isolation she felt after a dementia diagnosis. And so she encouraged all of us, now that we know what it feels like, to make sure that we reach out to people when we know that they're dealing with this kind of diagnosis so they don't have to face it alone.
Yeah, that's key. I mean, I know when we dealt with what my mom went through, and I'm sure with your grandmother and your dad, it gets to be a point where they don't leave the house, and it's just too hard to do things, and as caregivers to help them do things, right? So it's easier to just kind of stay in the bubble.
Yep.
So what do members love most about the organization, whether the volunteers or the people that participate in the walk? And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Well, I think what people love most about the association is the opportunity to have a hand in what we're doing. And the fact that we are the leading nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's research is amazing, but we also are a leader in providing hands-on local care and support. So you're not just doing something to change the future, you're doing something to help people right now in your own community. So I think that dual focus or reach is really appealing to people and makes them want to be a part of what we do.
Yeah. What local things you mentioned that we do in the community? What does that look like?
So, of course we have fundraising events. So like our Walk to End Alzheimer's, our Ride to End Alz cycling event, and something called the Longest Day, which is really a DIY event. So those are all great events that people can take part in. But we also have advocacy efforts where we are regularly reaching out to elected officials to make them aware of our calls and the things that the decisions they're making that impact people with the disease and how it impacts them. And then of course, support groups, health fairs, educational programs. We are a voluntary health organization, so we depend on volunteers to help us do all of those things, raising the funds, advancing research, holding support groups, providing those care and support services. Volunteers are integral to all of that. So we need hands to help us do it.
Well, that leads me to my next question is, what resources do you need most from the community?
And I would say that's probably it. I mean, obviously dollars make a difference in moving our mission forward, but then hands, people that are willing to come out and hands-on do the work of the association. So that can be something as simple as helping put up posters about an event that we have coming up to help spread awareness, or it can be getting trained to be a support group facilitator, particularly if you've lived through the disease as a caregiver, that you are uniquely capable of getting trained to be a support group facilitator to help people that have gone through that same life, that are going through that same life experience.
Yeah, because you can share. Yeah, you share your experiences, and then they can learn from that. Well, what is the most memorable experience you've had while working?
Again, so many wonderful moments, but I will say, because I work specifically with Walk to End Alzheimer's, probably my most memorable experiences are from Walk Day. And I would say in Rock Hill one year, we had a couple that are a couple of people, a man and a woman. They were not a romantic
Together.
couple,
Yeah.
but they were walking the walk, which it's only a 2-mile walk, so it's not physically aggressive. Anybody can participate. But these people were living in a senior facility at that point in time, but it meant a lot to them because they had both lost spouses to the disease to actually do the walk. So they were doing the walk, and they ended up walking hand in hand together, being the last two to cross the finish line, probably by nearly a quarter mile.
Yeah.
So everyone else had gotten to the finish line, and we heard that they were still out on the route because we had people out there monitoring. And so we got everyone to gather around and cheer for them as they came the last leg of the walk and crossed the finish line together. And that was just really moving and memorable. They were doing it in honor of their loved ones that they had lost, but they were also trying to make a difference for the future so that future generations wouldn't have to take these same steps.
That's amazing.
It was
an
really
amazing story.
Yeah, even to
And
be
just
there
to be there, the goosebumps.
Yes,
I'm getting
exactly.
goosebumps just listening to the story. Well, what would you say the future holds for the Alzheimer's Association, and specifically in the Greenville chapter?
So I believe that the future of the Alzheimer's Association is that we will find a cure to Alzheimer's disease. I believe it confidently. I believe it will happen in my lifetime, and we are here working until that day comes. And so our hope is that one day we don't need the Greenville chapter or the Greenville office of the Alzheimer's Association.
Yeah.
So I think there's great things coming, and I think that our cause is gaining a greater voice and visibility in our community, but also nationally and globally. And I think as that happens, that the science will progress even faster. So this is a great time for people to get involved, and there are great things to come.
Well, speaking of getting involved, tell us about the walk. When is it? How can people sign up?
So Walk to End Alzheimer's is the signature event of the Alzheimer's Association. It happens in over 600 communities nationwide. The majority of those happen in the fall. So our walk is normally the first weekend in October. We're actually the last Saturday in September this year, Saturday, September 30th. Yeah, a little technicality because it's a split weekend. But we try to keep around that same time frame every year. We're at Floor Field. It is an early morning walk because we know that football reigns supreme this time of year.
Especially in
this
the
area.
South.
Exactly. So it is an early morning event. We invite people to come out. We have a very a wonderful opening ceremony that's very moving and lets people honor the reason that they come out and walk. And then we have our progression down Main Street. We end up back on Floor Field, and it's just a celebration of where we are in this moment, of the people we love and we're honoring, and the people that we're supporting now. And again, the biggest hope for us is to one day find that first survivor, find a cure. Exactly.
And so, how long is the walk? You said the one in Rock Hill was maybe 2 miles. Is
Yeah.
this one 2 miles or 1 mile? It's
Well,
not,
we try
not
to.
long.
Yeah, no, we try to keep all walks around the nation between 2 and 3 miles is really the standard, because this isn't meant to be a physically aggressive event. It's not a race. It's not a run. It's not a contest. It is really more of a procession, a procession to display our reason for walking. And so we carry our flowers, colored flowers, with us on walk day that symbolize the different reasons that people walk. And it's meant to be for all ages and all abilities. We strive to make all of our routes, and our one in Greenville is fully handicap and wheelchair accessible.
Oh, wonderful.
So
that's
very
awesome.
important.
Well, I know you guys have a Facebook page,
Yes.
And the website, which will be listed, and you will soon be featured on Park Bench website, and where you guys can find all the local events. She mentioned the bike ride, and we just recently had our Aloha
Yes.
kickoff party
For the
walk. And then there's other things that teams do, such as like reach out to local restaurants, and they
Yes.
do a proceeds kind of charity donation.
So I tell people check back often, because we will hopefully have lots of these types of events going on throughout the year where you can come out and be a part of what maybe a team is doing to raise funds, get ideas for yourself while also helping the cause.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for
Thanks,
taking the
Beth.
time to meet with me. And I think we've got a meeting, next Tuesday?
Yes, we do.
So I'll see you then.
Sounds good.
I'm Beth Herbster, your local Greenville Upstate Realtor. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Getting to Know Greenville. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, and also check out my Park Bench website to see other interviews with people in the community, local businesses, and restaurants. Thanks, guys.